Hello, Reds. Welcome back to the Red Devil Experience. Hope everybody is doing well. My name is Eric, and we got the latest Manchester United news and updates. We're going to do a United versus Wolves preview. Ruben Amorim has changed the system, and everybody has lost their damn minds. So we're going to get into that as well. We're going to talk about that because I've seen a lot of reaction from the fan base, and once again, I don't know what it is. It must be something in the general, wide population of the water. Because I think, people are either totally lost or, they're just doing things for attention. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into some of the transfer updates because January window does open in, I believe, less than something of like 55 hours or something like that. There's been some updates. Joshua Zirkzee looks like there is a concrete deal on the table for him to go to Roma, which would include an obligation to buy as well. And it's really up to Manchester United if they want to accept it. And we got some other news, injury updates as well. Couple names, extra names, new names sort of being thrown around the midfield discussion as we lead into January. So it's going to be a good show. Hope everybody's doing well. Please make sure you're smashing the like button. It is very important to the channel. If you want to support us, that is the best way to do it. Smash that like button. Get the likes up. Get that done, people. Greatly appreciate it. If you're new and you enjoyed the content, please make sure you subscribe, join the family, join the community. We're on our way to 3,500 subscribers. This counter hasn't updated, but we're actually at 3,258 subscribers. So that thing will update by itself at some point anyway. But I guess let's sort of just kick off on, a couple things here. So let's start with, I'll start with the Zirkzee thing because it was a little bit old. Well, not a little bit old, but it came about 24 hours ago. But let's knock this one out of the way. Then we'll jump around. And we'll get into the main point of the discussion 25 minutes into the show where we start talking about this system change, what it's going to look like for Wolves, what's actually going on, because I think people, they can't read. And they can't listen, and they don't seem to understand the words that come out of the manager's mouth. So I find it quite interesting that people are so lost on what's actually happening. But let's start with this. Fabrizio Romano yesterday said Roma have made an official offer to sign Joshua Zirkzee on loan with the potential obligation to buy. Zirkzee has an agreement with Roma, but the decision is down to Manchester United. And that was sort of the last update that we got about that. So pending more news surrounding Joshua Zirkzee, I will say, after having about 2 days to sort of digest it from the Boxing Day win and the Boxing Day match versus Newcastle, that Joshua Zirkzee performance still bothers the shit out of me. I'm just going to be honest. It's been bothering the crap out of me. And then when I seen this story pop up, and it came from Fabrizio, it bothered me even more because the only thought that it immediately came into my head was bro went on the pitch and played like he had already left our club. That's the only way I could describe it. So, I don't know if his head is already gone. Maybe he's not focused anymore. Maybe he's already thrown sort of, that he wants to go to Roma. There's been some other stories prior to this one in the last couple days saying that he sort of likes the project. He's very, enticed by the project at Roma. They're apparently offering him to be sort of the main focal point of the attack, where he's clearly not the main focal point of Manchester United. So I don't know. It's a large assumption to make, but I would certainly say from an outsider looking in, not being able to see him in training, not being able to interact with him on a day-to-day basis, he went on the pitch and he performed like he already had one foot out the door, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's just certainly how it left me feeling. So, we will see. We will see. Couple other things. Obviously, Ahmad and Mbeumo played against each other yesterday, and it was a good match. Ahmad coming out on top in that one. Whoa, that was weird. he scored 2 goals, 2 games. He's playing really good. We're missing him, and we could use that, in our team. But yeah, a little bit of AFCON watch. So he scored a really good goal as well. Classic sort of Ahmad coming from the right side, cutting inside, left foot, far post, curler, and goal. And yeah, he's got 2 goals. This other update was about the midfield. And there's a couple of different updates, so we're going to jump around a little bit. But this one came earlier today, about 11 hours ago or so. Manchester United are evaluating alternative midfield options this January. Names under consideration include James Garner, former Manchester United player, an academy player, Manu Kone, and Leon Goretzka. But as things stand, there have been no club-to-club negotiations yet. Yeah, I don't think anything. It's a bit similar to the summer. Steph's here, says, big up Eric. How you doing, Steph? Hope everything is well. Hope you had a good Christmas and, all that good stuff. And if if you're off work, I hope you're having a good time. Lucky says we must be looking more same defense, tight, strong, make sure score goals in the second half. Steph says vote, like, subscribe, and comment. Yes, also vote in the poll. I forgot to mention. This is why we have Steph. She's so good with these things. Could Toby Collier return early? It's a good question. I don't know. Because simply I just don't know, in that there's no news that, at least that I haven't seen anything, or I don't know what they plan to really do with him. But it is a bit interesting because we kind of did use him last season, and we sent him out on loan, and that loan wasn't necessarily going great, and he's got injured, and he's back at our club for the injury because that's how it's usually done. Since he's our player technically, he's come back to United. He's doing his sort of a rehabilitation at United, so he is at our club. And I don't know. I think I think it's a very good point, Steph. Like, I think it could be a possibility in terms of something that we might do. But I don't know where he stands, and I don't know what they plan for him. Maybe they just send him back. Maybe they keep him. Maybe they look to send him somewhere else. But I think it's definitely one that, maybe we should just keep at least one eye on and see, if we get any sort of updates about it, and see what happens. Because, he is a midfield option. We are saying that we need midfielders, and we are a little bit low in terms of, Bruno is out injured, and, Manu is out injured, and, it looks to appear that Mason Mount might not be available for the Wolves game as well. So, there is still Conor Gallagher available on the table. And this sort of deal between United, Roma, and Xerxes, where we could get some type of money, because it would sort of balance the book, since this, I believe it would be in the same financial year for the football club. So we won't get the money directly, but really, a lot of it is on borrowed money. It's not like we pay in cash anyway, so it's all about balancing the books. So technically, if we send Xerxes to Roma, and the obligation is pretty much, I'm pretty sure it's, if they qualify for Champions League or something like that, which I think is like pretty much almost a given, to a certain degree. Apparently, I think we're going to get something like £25 million for that. And we could then spend $25 million on Conor Gallagher. So the books would essentially be balanced in that case, because it's one in, one out. So it's like you're swapping a player, and you incur no loss technically, other than the wages for whatever you'd have to pay for Gallagher. But I think United still would like to do a loan for Conor Gallagher because, again, he's sort of not one of the top targets in terms of Baleba, Anderson, Wharton. Those are our top 3. And then there's some other options as well floating around. So I think if they could get a loan, they would prefer the loan because they don't have to be tied to anything. And then if he works out well, And I sort of prefer the loan anyway as well because, one, I think he has some good stats in pressing, but I don't know how nobody really knows how it's necessarily going to go. I mean, if he does well, then we could purchase him. It's sort of like test driving a car. And in that case, when I put it in that way, I mean, I wouldn't want to buy a car before testing it out, because if I don't like the car or the car is not as good as I thought it was, now I'm stuck with a car that I don't like and that I don't really want to use or, isn't meeting my needs. So I think United would like to do the loan, but Atletico have been quite stubborn and they've been, sort of holding out in that aspect. And, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting one. Who's sort of going to, is Atletico going to budge from this? I mean, they do have a slightly lesser upper hand in terms of that, if there isn't more interest out there for somebody like Conor Gallagher, and options are limited, they are sort of wasting time in terms of not sending him somewhere and holding on to him when he's clearly no longer wanted or needed in the squad. So have you bought a car, man? No, I'm talking about players. Axe. I have a car. I haven't bought a new one. I don't believe in buying cars like that. Cars are the worst investment you could ever. I mean, it's not even. I don't even consider them investments. It's basically throwing your money away. So I'm the guy that I will buy one car and I will keep that thing until it literally doesn't operate anymore. I don't care. But Steph says, we have a lot of unstead youngsters on the bench tomorrow. Let's hope no freak injuries or suspensions versus Wolves and a victory is paramount. Well, definitely 100%, Wolves, we got to win again. It's the same as the first fixture. There's no excuse. And now I would say it's probably double because we're home. So, There's just no way. You got to get 3 points. But we'll get to the Wolves in a little bit, and we'll break it down. I'll get to the injuries and stuff like that, and I'll also talk about sort of the formation and a bit of the system change and what we could see. And we're gonna get some of the injury updates from Ruben as well. Lucky says, we will need to keep pattern defending strong. Make sure we put a couple goals early or second half. Well, early goals is better, for sure. But as long as they come, I guess I would say, And, I would like to see us put in a few. Yeah. Listen, I mean, I know Liverpool are sort of, for what Liverpool have been doing, they have been great, but they are in sort of a similar situation as us in terms of points and sort of performances to a certain degree this season. And, they just played Wolves, and Wolves gave them a decent fight, at Anfield. So can't be complacent just because they are the worst team. We got to go out there. We got to treat them with, some respect. We can't completely disrespect them. We can't be complacent. We need to go out there. We need to take them seriously, and we need to, do the job that we need to do and get over the line. So, X says, unfortunately for me, I have a car in order. Well, many people have a car in order to reach work. Literally one of the ways to spend your money. Oof. Yeah, I'm not a believer in that. Listen, if you get a car that's like, like my friend has a Nissan, I think it's a GTR. GTR? No, not a GTR. Skyline, sorry. I don't know where I got GTR from. He's got a Skyline. So the one that, Paul Walker had in Fast and Furious. See, like a car like that, acceptable. It's a 98. It's a classic. It holds its value. It's more expensive than, some of the newer cars. Something like that makes sense. But, other than that, just like, can't really be bothered. Back-to-back clean sheets and back-to-back wins would be very welcome, but not a formality. Tomorrow gotta concentrate, says stuff. Yes, and listen, the next 3 matches, I mean, we are playing Wolves. I believe it's Burnley, and let me pull it up here. So we can be correct, because we like to try and be accurate. Where is my... I Oh, I went too far. I went too far. We are playing. We are playing. Can you give me? We are playing Wolves, Leeds, and Burnley. In the next three matches. So I mean, the Leeds one. Listen, they've. I know they're down in 16th, and we should be beating them. But the Leeds one is a bit, I would say, unfortunate in terms of that. You know, they were really bad. They've improved in their form, so they're playing better. So it's I think that one's a little bit less straightforward than the table makes it look like, because of the form that they're in, and they have been playing much better than they've, started the campaign. But still, I expect this to go. I'm looking for 9 points out of these three matches. I think we should definitely be doing this. And if we're going to actually, succeed and get in fourth place or fifth place, then I think we need to go and do these jobs in these three matches, and certainly against Wolves. Yeah, Leeds. It's Wolves, then Leeds, then Burnley. And obviously Leeds is a derby, so it's a big one, even though they are in 16th and they're down there. But couple other things that we need to hit. So one of the things is an update about Lenny Yoro, coming from the Athletic here, saying there is an acknowledgement at United that Yoro's form has faltered slightly of late. I think anybody with eyes can see that. But there is no sense of alarm. I don't think there should be. They also say any recent dip is viewed as nothing out of the ordinary for such a young player, which is, what I've been talking about for quite a while. They go on to say his work ethic does not go unnoticed at their training ground. Yoro's response to his recent struggles has been to put extra sessions in the gym alongside external work away from the club. And that's good. That's good. I think, listen, he needs to, I think really the battle of where it is probably the mentality side, because again, young guy, he's not experienced in terms of the ups and downs of the life of a footballer to a certain degree. As some of these other guys, maybe like a Casemiro or a Bruno or, somebody like that's up there in age, has played a lot of seasons, has played a lot of matches. And has played in a couple different teams and situations and competitions, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, I don't think there's any real alarm for Lenny Yoro. Listen, he had a bit where he was brilliant and he was in really good form and he was performing well. He's dipped in form. I think the important part is for him to just sort of stay a bit grounded, in his mentality, in terms of, it's good if he's putting in extra sessions in the gym, try and power through it. And, nothing lasts forever. So it'll turn around, just, you can't give up on yourself. And I think really the large part of it is the mental battle. I think when I watch him now, you could tell he's lost a bit of confidence. And he's sort of second guessing himself on the pitch. And, he can't do that. So he needs to sort that mental side out. He needs to be sure in what he's doing. He needs to make the decision. Like, he needs to make the decision immediately and then execute it immediately. Some of the things, he's backing away from attackers a little bit too much. He needs to be confident in his ability. He needs to press up on them. He needs to flip the pressure onto them. I think he's allowing the pressure to, go on to him too much. So I think he'll turn it around. He's 19. And, this is what I've been saying about the youth guys, the young guys. Like, even for Lenny, he is still, he's sort of a youth guy. Like, yeah, he's not in the under 21s or he's not in the under 18s, but these young guys, it happens to a lot of them, and it happens very often. Like, they will be in good form, and then all of a sudden, one mistake or one bad game, and then all of a sudden it's a bunch of runs with bad form and bad performances, and they sort of get stuck there a little bit, and it takes them a little bit of time to get out of it, and this is the point of, the difference between players that are experienced and players that are less experienced. So, Um, Euro is constantly changing position across the back line, sometimes right, sometimes central and left. Is that a factor? Could be a factor. Could be a factor. Steph could be. I think that's a good point as well, Steph. It's a good point. I mean, younger guy, again, we just talked a little bit of lack of experience in terms of, it could disrupt a little bit of your flow, a little bit of your patterns, a little bit of your stability. You know what I mean? So that could be a thing as well. Could be a thing. I don't think it's like the major reason, but it could play a bit part into it, because sometimes there's a bunch of little things that add up, and all of a sudden it's become a big problem, one big overall problem. So that could be as well. So but again, I think just the best way, like any other player that I would tell that's struggling, is you just got to try and power through it and come out on the other side. And you just got to keep putting in the work. It'll turn around. It's why they say like form is temporary, class is permanent, because form is temporary. I mean, the greatest players in the world, besides the two freaks of nature between Ronaldo and Messi, they all go in and out of form. It's just some take longer to some can sustain it longer, some get stuck in a bad form longer, but it's a little bit all over the place. So I think that Euro is suffering in love. Just my 2 cents. Well, I don't. Maybe, I mean, listen. Every player is a bit different, and because they're different humans, so some players respond well to like criticism and being called out. I mean, if you look at sort of Aiden Heaven's comments that he made, which I'll get to somewhere, because they are somewhere and I saw them. I just don't know where they are exactly. But his and even if you look at Dorgu's comments that he just made, because he received a bit of criticism. So I guess you would say that's a little bit lack of love to a certain degree, although some people might say that it's a different type of love. But yeah, I think every player sort of responds a bit differently, and they're all different humans, so maybe he might need something else. But I think in general, when you're that type of player, you have to try and understand a bit of the circumstances. You have to understand the guys that you're working with, the group that you're with, and you have to understand the manager. You got to understand what kind of guy. I mean, he has to understand who you are as well, but you also have to understand what kind of guy he is. What's he about? Is he singling you out? Are you being singled out? Is it really unfair, or is he kind of doing that to a lot of people or a lot of players? Because sometimes when you're in it, you kind of feel like maybe you're getting picked on a little bit, or you might feel like it's a bit unfair to you. But I think if you take a second, take a step back, you sort of look at the situation, I think you could see, well, I'm not the only kind of guy that this has sort of happened to, or he's made comments about, or, has started and now is on the bench and now is coming off the bench and stuff like that. So, Leach will help Euro enormously, hopefully, says Steph. Well, I think Leach, listen, a lot of people have made, because we played with a 4-back, and we kept a clean sheet. Now everybody's gone crazy, and it's like, oh, well, we kept a clean sheet because of the 4-back. And I'm like, well, could very well be because of the 4-back. Could be also because, I don't know, we had Licha Martinez playing defense. And I've always think that Licha is a massive defensive player that we've been missing for very, very long, and we needed him back. So I think both can be true at the same time. I think both can be impacts. I wouldn't lean necessarily one to the other and say that, we only kept a clean sheet because we went to the 4-back, because even in the middle of the match, which I don't understand that anyway, because in the middle of the match, he changed it anyway, and he went to a 5-back, or, we went like full defense. So we started the match with a 4-back, but we ended the match with like 5-6 defenders on the field. So I don't agree with this. We kept the clean sheet because we played a four back, you know, because we didn't sustain it over the whole period of the match. So, um, Wolves stands for now. If Amorim can't defeat them, then we need a new manager as soon as possible. No excuses anymore. Well, I mean, I don't think anybody's really making excuses. He's certainly not making excuses. I find it quite funny, Axe, that you always say that because, I don't know if you listen to his press conferences. I don't know if you read them, but he literally says in like every press conference, no excuses. So it makes me laugh because you don't like him and you hate him, but he says some of the things you say. So I find it a bit ironic. All about building partnerships like Dorgo and Heaven seem to have. Yeah, and I think, listen, this squad, Steph, I would say when I look at it, I think the chemistry between the players is a lot better than the chemistry that we had in the past in past teams. Overall, I don't feel like it's as clicky. There's always going to be players that are sort of more I don't want to say friends, but just they get on a lot better with with certain players like Ahmad and Mbeumo, for example. Like they have a really good sort of chemistry. They get on well with each other. But when you look at the overall team, even the ones that you would say like, okay, they're not necessarily best friends, like they're not hanging out in their free time with each other, but there's a better sort of respect, I think, all around between all the players in the squad. And I think there's sort of a better understanding as well to a little bit of a degree when I sort of think back in some of our past teams, going back like 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I used to feel like it was very, very cliquey. It was almost like a, high school lunch table, where, you're not cool enough. You're not a cool kid to sit at this table. So we don't really, respect you. And, we're the main guys and you guys are under us. And, I don't really get that feeling anymore. So I think the team, in terms of sort of a bond and chemistry, has improved, and I think there's more room for it to improve. I think it can definitely get stronger, and I think it needs to get stronger. But I think that's an important aspect that we need. So wolves are toothless, have no bite, but we must convert our chances. Need at least 2 or 3 goals to make sure of victory. Would be a good time for Sesko to start scoring again. Well, I do hope that Sesko can start finding the net soon because, it'll just be important for him. I don't want to get into a place where we're having a conversation like we did about Rasmus Højlund with the striker. We don't need that. And, I worry a little bit about that because I think the fan base is giving him leeway right now, but when the fan base decides that they don't want to give that leeway anymore, it will turn very toxic. And I still think that the team, him including himself, but I think the team generally needs to find a little bit of an answer for the guy up there. Again, for me, I just feel like he's got some bits that he needs to improve on his game, but also I would like to see him get way more chances than he's getting, and I don't think he gets enough chances. I don't think there's enough chances that are necessarily being created for him, specifically the striker. Sometimes he makes some runs, he doesn't get the ball. I think he needs the ball in certain positions, in certain areas. They don't tend to come there. And one of the things that sort of pisses me off a bit is there's a lot of matches where I've seen like Sesko's on the pitch and we don't put in certain balls, crosses and stuff like that. And as soon as he comes off the pitch, the balls start going into the areas of where he was, but the ball wasn't coming in. And then they come in there a lot more and it's like, well, why are you putting them in now? The guy isn't there. The guy that was there and you didn't do it when he was there. So, but yeah, we do need. Listen, I think Wolves. I would like to get a clean sheet, but I think Wolves are toothless to a certain degree, but I think they've shown that they can at least get a goal. I don't think it's one that you have to worry about them scoring a lot. And I think, if we put in 3, I think we're comfortable. Like, we're not going to have to worry at all. But we definitely need more than 1. We definitely need more than 1. Because I think there's always a chance that they could probably get 1. They get 1. They could definitely get 1. I wouldn't see them getting any more than 1, but yeah, I mean, they're not obviously they're not scintillating in the attack, but they scored 1 against us. They scored 1 against Liverpool, so I think they can get 1, but the problem is obviously getting more than 1. So he just says the thing we all wish to hear, but he doesn't transfer his words into actions. I'm glad to give him the axe. He has fake. He's a fake interviewee. There is no need for that. We won trophies. I completely disagree. I don't think he's fake at all. I don't think he said anything that's fake. Give me examples of what he said that's fake. He didn't say anything that's fake. He stays on point in his message, and he's pretty thorough in it. So, I mean, he's pretty consistent with it. So, he couldn't defeat Tottenham to win. Yeah, I know. All right. So, we're just going to keep going back to last season. Well, we'll ignore, we'll ignore what's happening this season. We'll keep going back to Tottenham in the Europa League final. I mean, I've seen it all. So, I already know. But what you're telling me right now is nothing new. I've seen all the arguments online. I've seen all the people say things. It's pretty repetitive. But I wanted to get Dorgu's quotes here on the manager, but I don't know where they are. Well, it wasn't on the manager. It was on criticism, really. But let me see if I can find it real quick. Criticism. They're gonna. I don't know where it is. I'll look for it as we go. But okay, a couple things from Ruben from the press conference, so we could get this out of the way. Injury update. He was asked on injured players, asked if anybody's coming back. He said no. I don't know how Mason Mount is going to be for that game. He said, I think Kobe Mainu, Bruno De Ligt, and Harry Maguire will not be ready either. So I think we are not going to have more players, which is unfortunate. It is unfortunate because we would like, these guys to come back. Kobe not being able to make it back. Although, listen, he does like a little bit of trickery. I enjoy it as well. I like the fact of how he went about the Newcastle match. I like how he lined up in the way, he lined up. I like the way in that they, warmed up in the regular formation, and then we started the match in the 4-back. I like that. I mean, I like that it had Eddie Howe scrambling to figure out, how they're going to adjust. I think Eddie Howe did a smart move in terms of telling the goalkeeper to go down, to give him some time to change things around and actually make the call. But, the first 15 minutes. So I think, listen, he's always been like this a bit with injuries anyway. I like this sort of aspect that he takes. Don't show all your cards. Don't play your full hand. Why would you do that? I think, I certainly wouldn't. I think you should keep sort of an element of surprise. And, now it's a little bit more trickier because we sort of have 2 ways to sort of go about the match now. With him implementing this sort of new formation. I wouldn't say it's a new system because the principles are still the same. But the change to the 4-back definitely throws a little bit of a wrench into the mix because, I mean, they could prepare for the 3-back. It plays slightly different to the 4-back. And also, you're going to have different players. Now, the big thing is if there's no Mason Mount, and there's no Kobe, and there's obviously no Bruno, and you do play the 4-back, who's playing in the center? Who's playing in the center of that 4-2-3-1 or whatever you want to call it? Because I think Mount would be playing there, but Mount's not here or potentially not here. So, what is he going to do about that? Because I think if he goes with the 4-back again, I think Dorgu will start in the same position. I think we'll have the same defense. We'll probably have the same midfield too in Casemiro and Ugarte. And then really it's like, well, it's either Xerxes, he's going to go into that center, or he's going to take Mateus Cunha, put him in that center, and then somebody's going to have to go on that left side, maybe a Lacey, or maybe he puts a Jack. I mean, he seems to like Jack Fletcher a lot. So, I think it's a bit of a question mark, but he might be playing just a little bit in terms of, leaving some uncertainty for the opposition, because maybe Mason Mount will be, available. We don't know the extent to the degree because they don't tell us, which I don't think they should necessarily tell us anyway, to a certain degree. Because again, you want to keep sort of the opposition guessing, So Mason Mount could be on the bench. Maybe he's not involved at all. Maybe he's all right and he'll play. But yeah, I think it's a bit. Are we better defensively with Bruno? Not in the position that he was playing in. No. No. Because his strength isn't defending. So I think by default, I would have to say no. But if he's going to play this new, this new formation, then I expect Bruno to play not in the two holding midfielder spots. I expect him to play in front of them where he should be. So he did also speak about that. So Grace is here, says, yo, says long term, is Dorgu a fullback or a right wing? Well, I don't know. I think we just got to see it play out, Grace. Listen, he had a very good game playing, as right wing. We got to see what he's going to do for Wolves. Because again, I think many people are saying that he's thrown his 3-back out the window. And I don't believe that for a second. And I think that will still be in use in certain moments of the game or certain matches. I think he's going to sort of go back and forth now, especially in this moment in time. I think he doesn't really have a choice. Well, he does have a choice, but I think it's a smart move to do what he's doing in terms of if you were gonna sort of go with the change or you have to adapt. I mean, I think now is the time where you really have to adapt because you're at a lack of players. You're at a lack of options. So, you need to really now you need to adapt. Because of the lack of options. Why can't it be a 4-2-3-1, 3-4-3 hybrid? Well, it seems to be something like that, Grace. I think I would say, it seems to be something like that for sure. To a certain degree, because again, the match against Newcastle, we started in that, but we did not end with the 4-back. So, it's not like we played a full 90 minutes of it. And did what we did. It was essentially some sort of a hybrid. And, I don't know. Listen, the haters have been asking for him to do this. They said he's rigid. They said he doesn't adapt, and now he's doing it, and they're still mad at him, and they're still angry, and they're still pissed, and they're still talking shit. So just goes to prove the point that, no matter what he does, these people will never be happy. So, what's the point in really trying to please them? Which was my whole point in, I just let the guy do what he thinks is best. I don't really care. I think it's pointless because now the same people that said that, he's stubborn and doesn't change and he won't change and, he's not adaptable, and now he's changing and he's being adaptable, and nobody, these guys don't want to give him credit for that, and they just want to continue to, throw dirt on him because they need to be proven right, because they've been hating on Ruben for so long that they need to be right. And they can't say they're wrong. Like, listen, I'll say I was wrong to the degree of that, I got into a little bit of a rabbit hole that I was saying that he would never change. He would never change. And that he's not going to change. I was wrong about that, because actually, to be fair to the guy, he did say back in September, that it will change. He literally said in September that it will evolve, that it will change, and that he will do the change when he feels like he needs to make the change. And that he said that he hopes that he will be here to make that change. So, I just think that he's doing what he sort of said that he was going to do, and that's why I have sort of the poll up here. Because I see some people trying to say that, he's doing it to save his job. I mean, I don't buy that at all. I think, how you're coming up with the assumption he's doing it to save his job when we're in 6th and we're 3 points off of 4th. I think to save his job probably would have came if we were sitting in 10th and we needed to get more points. I don't really buy this. He's doing it to save his job. I think actually, if you look at it, maybe if you take into account all the things that transpired in the past and the things that he said, this was probably. I'm just taking a guess here, but it could have been part of the plan all along, in terms of that he came in, he had his system, he had the way he played with his formation and his style. It's what he knows best. I think to make the changes that we needed and for him to not really play that way, I think all of that takes time. So I feel like they might have been working on all of this in the background. He also said that he was going to use his 3-4-3 as a base for them to learn the basics. And once you learn the basics, you can then play any sort of formation shape that you want, because it's pretty much all the same in terms of instructions and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you look back on it, he came in doing what he knows, and I think while he was doing that, he was probably working on some other things on the side and, taking it in steps, which is progression, because progress takes some time to do. So, I rephrase, we are better defensively without Bruno. Well, yeah, I think because of where Bruno is playing, for me, Bruno, like, where he was playing in that place, like, he's not a defensive player. The only thing that he can do maybe better than some other players defensively is initiate the press. But when it comes to, like, tackling or cutting passing lanes, which is all defensive work, I mean, that's not his thing, is it? So I mean, I think the way we're playing now, yeah, but also, maybe we lack a little bit of creativity in terms of, if Mason Mount's not there, I worry a little bit about this, because if Mason Mount's not there and we don't have Bruno and there ain't no Kobe, I worry a little bit about the creativity now, because you have Cass, you have Ugarte. Ugarte is not a creator by any means. He's not going to create for us. Cass, for a defensive midfielder, is decently good at, going forward. But, yeah, like, I mean, nobody really wanted Bruno in there, but he was using Bruno because he felt like he needed to in that. Now he's made this change. It's going to be interesting when Bruno comes back and we get all our players back. I mean, he had a comment about this. Because, he was asked about the change in the formation. He was asked about sort of the new system and stuff like that. Well, people are calling it a new system. I don't think it's a new system. I just think it's a new shape that he's also playing. But, and as soon as I pull it up, wherever it is, where is the quote? Don't tell me these guys don't have the quote. Okay, so, well, this is on That's not the exact quote that I needed. All right, let me pull it up. I thought they had the quote that I wanted. They don't. They don't. They ruined the show. They ruined the show. Show's over. It's ruined. Um. Okay. Are all the aggregators like on? Have they checked out? Okay. Here's the quote that I wanted. So he was asked about the formation and the change that he's implementing now. And he said, when I came here last season, I understood that maybe I don't have the players to play well in that system. But it was the beginning of the process. We are trying to build an identity. Today is a different moment. We don't have a lot of players. We need to adapt, but they already know that. They understand why we are changing. It's not because of the pressure of you guys or from the fans, because he was talking to the media. He says it's because now we understand the way we want to play, and the principles are the same. We can change the system, and I think we are going to become a better team, because when all the players return, we are not going to play all the time with 3 defenders. We are going to improve. But that was something that we was talking about. But then when you talk about changing the system all the time, I cannot change because the players will understand that I'm changing because of you. And I think that is the end of the manager. So when we are playing well in our system, I think that moment to change is if it's the better thing to win the next game. This is what we did today, because he did this press conference that came out today. He did it after the match. So, I mean, it's sort of a long quote to sort of digest, but I mean, a couple of things here. Like, yes, many people, as soon as he walked in the door, and I think he knew it as well. I think everybody knew it, that we didn't have the players to play well in that system. We all said that. It was quite evident after a few games as well. We didn't say it, before he took charge, but after seeing it in a few games, everybody realized it that they didn't say it. So that, yes, we are trying to build an identity. Yes, that's literally what we're doing. We don't have one. We haven't had one, or we haven't had a good one. And we need one. We need a modern one. We need a modern identity for the game. So we've been trying to do that. That's what he's been trying to do, 100%. And he said we need to adapt, and I think we definitely do. Like now, especially, we need to adapt. And a little bit on the part of where he says like, that he can't change because the players will understand that I'm changing because of you. Like I do understand that sort of that sort of side of the argument from his perspective. And I said that for a long time. Like, you cannot conform necessarily so much to the players. And he's new, and they were struggling. And if he changed it when he changed it, and the change didn't go well, he would have lost everything. He would have lost everything. He would have lost everything, because they would have been like, well, he didn't stick to his philosophy. He didn't stick to his football. He gave in. He quit. He changed, and we're still not getting results, and we're still not performing. This guy isn't the guy. And they would all quit on him. They would all give up on him, and they'd give up on themselves and the team. So I get that aspect from him. Would you sell Bruno this summer? Well, I would say for the right price, but he does have a release clause, apparently. So I guess for the release clause, and then really, I guess it's down to him. But yeah, I mean, I would have sold him for the 100 million for sure to redistribute it back into the team. But I think if he's changing the formation and going about it the way he's going about it, I got to see where he's going to play to make a final decision now. Because if he puts Bruno back in that spot where I think Bruno should be playing, and where he belongs, then I might feel like maybe not, maybe not. Breaking news: Romano has filmed an interview with Amorim at his home. Sources close to the journalist report that Amorim has a lot of banana trees. All right. Stop being a weirdo. Now you're just being a weirdo. Lawrence Burry says, hi, how are things? Given the debate, do you think Bruno is a regular 10 or a unique 8? I like him better as a I like him better as a 10. I like him better as a 10. Excuse me. I like him better as a 10. I think that's where he does his best work. I think he's highly influential in, the opponent's half. He's good at the pressing as well. And listen, the guy, runs all over the pitch. So I think if we could take him out of a sort of the middle area, and put him a little bit more in the attack, and then he can come back on defense and help us, I think that helps the team massively in terms of he's not leaving a hole next to his partner, and you have sort of like a Casemiro and Ugarte next to each other, or maybe you have like Cass and Mano next to each other. I think it becomes a lot more balanced. So, again, I don't put a lot of blame on Bruno for this stuff, because I don't think he's playing the position that he should be playing, and that it's to his best strengths. But I think the manager has been making a call based on what he needed for that specific system. And there's definitely some negatives to it, but I think there's some positives to it. And he's an option that we don't really have. So going forward, if he's gonna play this 4 and he plays him in the position that I think he should be in, and that I think he plays his best, then I think we'll be all right. So Lucky says sell Ugarte, Gallagher, January. Well, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Wolves have 2 players out, says Lucky. They have 4 players, AFCON. Ray says we have too many 10s. Well, I don't think we necessarily do have too many 10s. I don't think we do. I mean, for me, in a certain way we do. But I think with the potential of Xerxes leaving, I think Xerxes is a 10, and I don't think he's a striker. For me, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, I wouldn't keep Bruno. I mean, I wouldn't sell Bruno right now. I wouldn't sell Mount, and I'm not selling Kobe. So for me, Xerxes got to go. Xerxes got to go. And then there's obviously Cunha and Mbeumo. And Mbeumo, I don't consider him really as a 10. He's more of a winger, but he could do a little bit of everything. Cunha is more of a 10, but I think the way we played against Newcastle, I still think that you could do that in terms of Cunha was a bit more inside, Dorgu was more wide. So I still think it balances it out. So I don't think and for this season, maybe it's a bit too many 10s, but I mean, if we're going to get back into Champions League European football and we're going to have a full season next season, then, I don't think, I think we're going to need all those guys. Because as you see, we just went from having way too many players, too many options, to not enough. And if you're playing a lot more matches next season, I probably expect more injuries, and definitely would need more rotation. So, I think we're going to need all those guys. So I wouldn't necessarily get rid of them. Lawrence says, well, my perspective is that everything changes with the 4-3-3, and that his best role is the 8 with the 2 6s behind him as holding players. Well, yes, to a certain degree. I mean, whatever it is, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, they're all variations of each other, which is why I don't get too fussed about it. It's really about when he's on the pitch, what is the role he's doing? And if his role is to play in the in the 2 in the midfield, well then, I don't think he can do that well to a certain degree. But if he's playing further forward and there's 2 guys somewhere behind him, whether it's a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, and there's a cover behind him, then I think it's fine. But, we're going back to sort of where what we were playing before. So Sincerely, Bruno's performances are the reason for our bad form. If anything, Bruno has positively contributed a lot to our current position in the table. Well, yeah, I mean, it could be true in a couple different aspects. Like, people are arguing that if he played with the four back, we would have more points. I could also argue, well, if Bruno scored his penalties, we would have more points. I could also argue, if that player, I don't know, put the ball into the back of the net inside the middle of the box, we would have more points. So, I again, I don't specifically think in terms of Bruno is being asked to play in a position that I think everybody knows that he has a couple good qualities for it, but he has negatives for it. So he's just there to do a job. Like, he's the captain, the manager has put him there, and he's asked him to do a job. I think he tried to do it, but, it's a lack of characteristics. Bruno is not a defender. He's not a defender. He's never done that. It's not his part of the game. How do you expect the guy to all of a sudden do it? He's obviously going to have games where it's not going to go well. Like, that one match he was a training cone. He's not a great tackler of the ball. But we're changing now, and things are changing. So let's see what happens. We have to wait for Bruno to come back to see what he's going to do with him, and then, we'll take it as it goes. If he takes Bruno and he puts him back there and he's got Mason Mount in front of him, well, I'll feel a little bit lost as to why he's doing that, because I don't think he needs to. But maybe we'll see a bunch of things. Maybe we'll see one game Bruno does play back there and Mount's in front of them. And then maybe Bruno plays up there, a different game or something like that. And maybe he has sort of more traditional holding midfielders. I think a lot of it dictates on the opposition as well, and how they play and what kind of players they have. For Newcastle, I think having Cass and Ugarte is good because they are quite physical. Last season they destroyed us physically. So we needed like two more defensive sort of players in that position, and I think it worked well. But when we play other teams, like maybe if we play a Wolves and we're at home, we might not necessarily need, if we had a full squad, we might not need Casemiro and Ugarte back there. We might not need to be so defensive. Maybe you could put somebody else in there, or you could have Kobe there. I mean, he's not. I wouldn't classify him as a defensive player either. I would consider him more of a balanced midfielder. Lucky, please stop spamming. Cunha and Mbeumo are good fits to the 10 position. Mason is a hybrid. Ahmad is a winger. We don't really have any other wingers. The question is, does the play come from width, or is Bruno still central? Well, I think you could probably do a mix, to be honest. I mean, going based off of what he did in the match versus Newcastle, I mean, Dorgu was playing the winger, Cunha was tucked inside, and then you had Mount, and then you had our two holding midfielders. So you could go through the middle. I think the left, then you obviously have to have, Luke Shaw overlapping to provide the width. And then you have Dorgu out there, or it would be Diallo. So I think if you're setting it up like that, I mean, you'd have. I think he's balancing the team for what we have in terms of, listen, we got sort of a right winger in Diallo, potentially maybe Dorgu. I mean, we got to see what happens. He played well there one match. We need to see more, Let's not do this thing of all of a sudden now he's a right winger because he played one game there and he played brilliantly and he scored a goal. We need to see it more, because we need to see it through different sort of matches, different types of games, different opposition, to really see, is it a one-off thing? or can he actually really play there? You know, it's sort of like the same thing as when there was this talk of, can we play Bruno deeper and not there? Because remember how many times he sort of went back and forth where Bruno sometimes played in the midfield too or whatever, or he played a deeper role, and sometimes it looked good and sometimes it looked like shit. But he's played there so many times that now, like, you know, everybody can say with 100% he doesn't belong there, you know? So the same thing for me goes with Dorgu. Like, he had one very good game. This is the first time we've seen him actually play there, but we're gonna have to see it more, you know, to really determine, like, should we actually be playing him there instead of, you know, left wing back, or left back or whatever it is. That was the Semenyo thing, to have a left winger, neither Mount or nor Bruno have pace wide. Cunha tucks inside too. Yeah, and I think that's why, like, again, like, he's gonna have to do what he has to do with what he's got in terms of, you know, so they're gonna be tucking in. If he gets another wide player, which, listen, he's sort of been asking for another wide player in terms of, you know, he mentioned it a couple times. He said we need another guy like Diallo on the left-hand side. So he is looking for that player. But listen, if you don't have that player, then what are you going to do? You know, you have to do something slightly different to then what you want to do until you get that player. And I think that's part of the reason why he's making his changes. You know, if you go back to the past comments before the ones that came out today, you know, he also said that, listen, he said to play a perfect 3-4-3, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of money, and we don't really have that. And we don't really have that. You know, that's pretty much what I've been arguing the whole entire time that this guy's been here, is when you make the change that you make, for it to come good, it's going to take time, especially with our situation, because we can only do so much transfer business in a certain period. And, you know, January is very short, and it's like, for us specifically, and it shouldn't be like this, but it is, if we get one guy in, that's like a W for us, because we're so used to getting absolutely either shit quality or nothing. So, and then the summer is still a struggle because, you know, we struggle to sell some players. There's players that we need to move on. There's players that we're struggling to get out of our club or off of the contracts, free up the money. You know, Rashford is one of them. We struggled to get rid of Sancho, but his contract is ending, thankfully, and we're not extending it. You know, there's a couple players still here that, like, we're struggling to sort of move on, and we're limited in terms of how much money, you know, if we need to spend 500 million, we can't spend 500 million in one go. You know, it's not happening. So it would take time. So he needs that time. So he's going to have to do what he has to do in terms of, really, he's just being adaptable and he's being flexible. But he went about it his way, you know? It just, you know, people said that he should have done it before. He didn't want to do it before. He did it his timing, and he's making the changes now. And yeah, I mean, it's his call. You know, he's the manager. It's him and Wilcox and the rest of them that are making this sort of plan. So one of the things that he did, he was asked about recruitment as well. So he was asked about recruitment. I mean, these guys, they're killing me here today. The aggregators are killing me. Why aren't you quoting the full press conference? You know, they pick and choose which quotes they want to put out. Okay, here you go. So they go on recruitment. He was asked about today. He says, sometimes I have one idea. Then he said, Jason and the board has another idea. But every decision we make, we need to reach a common ground. This is really important because you don't need to make everything for the manager, because the manager can change, and then you need to change everything. But you also need to understand that the manager understands the way of playing. If you don't reach common ground, the player would not come. So we just try to do that. We try to make all the assessments of how they live, how they train, the characteristics. And I don't usually do this, but listen, I saw this quote online, and I saw Mark Goldbridge quote tweet this and said, sounds confusing. And, I would just say to that, what's so fucking confusing about it? What's so confusing about it? I find it quite baffling. What's so confusing about it? In terms of, listen, let me rephrase that. It is a bit confusing, but that's why these people get paid the money they do, and that's why they need to be the experts they are, because this is what football clubs do. I've literally been talking about this for over a year. This simple scenario, I don't have the full details, I don't have the full answers, but the simple outline of the scenario, that's how this thing works. Okay? It's not our job necessarily for us to figure out how to uncomplicate it. Okay? We're fans. We don't have access to all the things that Wilcox and these guys that are running the football club have access to. We don't have the full picture. So, of course, it's going to sound confusing. It is. How many times have I said that they need to come to some sort of a decision? It's a committee. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. I'm not part of it. How would you possibly know what to do if you don't hold that position? This is the problem that I have with people in this fan base. Everybody wants to be an expert on everything when you're not. Are you a fucking director of football? Are you a sporting director? Have you done anything to a certain level for the game for you to even understand or comprehend any of this? No, you haven't. So don't speak like you're some sort of expert, because you're not. Give your opinion and say, I don't like if they're doing this, or maybe I hope, whatever. It's one thing giving an opinion. It's another thing talking like, you've accomplished it and you've done it. So, I see this guy putting out this tweet talking about it sounds complicated. I mean, no shit. That's why, not everybody can do this job. That's why it takes sort of an expert in this. It is complicated. It's not Football Manager. It's not EAFC manager mode. This is real life. Real life is complicated. So. But, yeah, I mean, exactly what he said is exactly what I mean, it's what they said they were doing, but it's also what I said that needs to happen. You can't make all the decisions specifically just for Ruben. You have to look out. If they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, you have to look out for the club. If the manager fails, you can't just be bringing in specific players that solely are good for Ruben. They have to be good for the direction of the future of the club. You have to be making decisions that is well, Ruben is here now. What can help him and what can he use? And if Ruben isn't here in 3 to 4 years' time, is this player still going to be good enough that we can use him going forward? Is it going to continue to fit the identity? So all of this stuff is what's going on behind the scenes. In the meantime, people are freaking out, panicking because they don't know what's going on. Because they don't really understand it, but they want to pretend like they understand it, and they just don't, And the proof will always be in the pudding, because whatever decision they make, we'll find out eventually, But let's talk a little bit about Wolves and what's going on with that. So, the Wolves match, even though we spoke a little bit about it, is that, again, Wolves, terrible run. Obviously, they have no wins. They got 5 losses in a row. And we are 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss, with their last match being a win and a clean sheet. Obviously, we're looking for a clean sheet. Some of the team streaks, head-to-head streaks once again. Wolves have 12 losses and they have no win in 14. They have no clean sheet in 14. United, both teams to score 5 out of our 6 last matches, which makes sense because we weren't keeping clean sheets until the Newcastle game. We have been the first to score in the matches 4 out of the 5 last matches that we played. Wolves have been the first to concede 10 out of their 10 last matches. And then head-to-head wise, we have no clean sheets in 4 against Wolves. There has been under 3 goals 7 out of the last 9 times we've played Wolves. Obviously not last match, but historically that's how it goes. 5 out of the 7 last times we played Wolves, we've scored first, which is good for us, because we have that stat as our own team streak going. And the last 10 matches, we've won 7 times, drew 0, and Wolves have won 3 times. And Ruben Amorim has a 1-0 record against Rob Edwards. So, again, I think it's still pretty straightforward. Like, it's got to be 3 points. There's nothing else that can happen. I think we'll probably see the 4-2-3-1 lined up again. I think what he's going to do is probably like what Grace was saying in terms of it's going to be a bit of a hybrid one. In that when he feels like it in the match, if we're not controlling the match, if we're not doing well, I think he's going to, change it like he did in the Newcastle one to sort of defend. I don't really like that. In terms of, we struggled to keep the ball in that match. Like, we were struggling to win it back, and then we were struggling to do something with the ball. And the team can't do that. But I can understand when you're putting on extra defender and stuff because you're trying to win the ball back. You're trying to sort of secure the defense a little bit. The pressure is going to come as well. It invites pressure, but the players have to understand that they need to continue to attack out of that. They need to continue to play the game out of that. And they can, because I've seen them do it before, but that last match specifically, they couldn't figure out how to do it. I mean, they weren't doing it the whole second half before he changed the formation and and put on extra defenders. And then they definitely didn't do it after. So they need to be able to continue to play out of that. Especially with sort of the limited options that we have now. I probably think that we'll get the 4-2-3-1. I think Lemons will obviously start. I think Delo is going to obviously start. I think Heaven's going to obviously start. I think Martinez will start, and I think Shaw will start, and Casemiro will start, and Ugarte will start. Which will most likely, I mean, because of the options that we have, Dorgu probably going to start on the right wing again. Cunha on that left-hand side. Sesko up top. And then literally that central piece is the big question mark. Is it going to be Jack Fletcher? Is it going to be Xerxes? Maybe Mason Mount, surprise, is fit enough. I mean, we're going to have to wait and see. And if Mason Mount, maybe he's not fit enough. Maybe they don't take the risk on him to start him, but maybe he'll be on the bench and maybe he'll come on, as a sub for 30 minutes or something like that. But, Kobe is doubtful, so maybe Kobe surprises us. They've done that a couple times where, they don't really tell us that the players are back, but they do pop up. Sometimes they tell us outright, sometimes they don't. So, we'll see. I would hope that, at the very least, maybe Kobe makes the bench, because I think if Kobe's going to come back, probably from his words, and it's been, what would that be, like about a week, a little bit over a week, maybe he's not fully fit to start, so maybe he'll be on the bench, and then he'll come off the bench. From that aspect, Harry Maguire, he's not going to make it, and De Ligt's not going to make it, I don't think. Bruno is definitely 100% out. Mount is doubtful, and then obviously the other 3 at AFCON are out. So, and Wolves do have a bunch of injuries. I mean, they got more players out. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They got 6 players out for sure. Andre is suspended. Andre Gomez is suspended, so that's a big loss for them there as well. And then they got 2 players doubtful. So, I mean, they're missing quite a few players as well. So it's not even like they're going to be playing their strongest team. But yeah, it's going to be a bit interesting because, I mean, Wolves are probably going to play a 3-4-2-1, or a 5-back in that way, and I think he's going to go with the fullback that he did. I think he's going to start with it again. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this actually goes. Next matches are crucial if we desire to have any chances of getting into UCL. They're all against lower tier teams. They are not even mid table. We have to take 9 out of 9 in the next 3 games. Well, I do think that we definitely do need to do that, and I think we should be doing that. And I don't see why not. So, and I think we definitely can do it. So, my only reservation that I have is I'm a bit concerned about that central position, because I think we're lacking we're lacking a little bit of a creative in there. You know, I think when you talk about Bruno, Mount, or Kobe, to have one of them sit in that central spot behind the striker, I think those are 3 players that could do something in that position that I have confidence in, that I think would massively help the team. If we don't have any one of those 3, I'm a little bit concerned in terms of creation, because I just don't know. Now, maybe Jack Fletcher plays there, and maybe Jack Fletcher steps up. You know, or maybe it's Xerxes, and maybe Xerxes steps up. I don't know. But, you know, I don't feel as confident with them. One, because Jack Fletcher, he's a kid, and you just don't know what you're going to get. He could be brilliant. He could be average. He could struggle that game. So I can't have confidence in the kid, because I don't know what he's really about yet. You know, he's only played a couple cameo appearances. So, and he's still raw. So, you know, I don't know what we're going to get from him. And Xerxes, I mean, he can be quite good. You know, I consider him as a 10, but that last performance has me a bit worried, because I still feel like maybe he's got one foot out the door, or half his head is out the door, because I still think he played like it. You know, I think he played like he wasn't really there during the Newcastle match. You know, I wanted him to come on because I said, listen, this guy, he can use his body. He'll hold the ball up. It'll be good. And he came off the bench, and it was like he wasn't even really there. You know, and I was regretting it. I was like, we shouldn't even have put him on at this point. We should have just kept Sesko on if he was going to do what he does. So, yeah. But there was this thing that I wanted to talk about, which is quite different from what we're talking about. But I saw it, and I said, you know what? I said, let me bring this into the show. So, I gotta fix that. Resize. Okay. I don't know how big this is. I don't know if you guys can see it. You know, I'll try my best, or try your best. I don't know how it looks on the screen. But this is a list, because this goes with my talk of recruitment. This is a list of all the players. And before I do that, let me get Lawrence Berry's comments, so I don't go off on a tangent. Xerxes is not creative either, and doesn't care anymore. Fingers crossed we can get 60 minutes out of Mason Mount and a couple of goals. Well, we are definitely going to have to see what happens. I think Xerxes can sometimes be creative. Listen, is he going to split defenses open with his passes? You know, is he good like Bruno or Mount with the passing? No. He's a bit creative differently, in terms of he can hold the ball up. He's got a bit of technical dribble, but you know, I don't know. Maybe it was just a bad game. Maybe he's not there. I'm a bit worried about it. In that aspect. So hopefully, whatever happens, you know, if Mount isn't there, or you know, whatever it is, hopefully whoever ends up going there, hopefully they step up to the plate, because we need somebody to step up. You know, we need somebody to step up. We're gonna need something. We're gonna need somebody to create. Otherwise, we're gonna struggle to score. We're gonna struggle to win these games. So, you know, we're gonna need to figure out ways. And if it's not coming through that centerpiece, somebody else is gonna do it. Somebody else has to do it. Whether it's Cunha or Dorgu on that side, or Luke Shaw bombing forward and helping out in that aspect. Somebody's gonna have to step up and do it. So, but yes, this is okay. So this is from the Telegraph. So I don't necessarily agree with these rankings. I mean, I don't really have time to go through these rankings and put them in my own order. But the Telegraph has put out a list of every Manchester United post-Fergie signing ranked. Now, just off of, the front bases, we've signed 71 players since Sir Alex Ferguson retired from this football club. And I don't really give a shit about the ranking. I don't care. Like, I think some of them are crazy as well. But the point is, it's not about the ranking. I could care less where they've ranked them, and I don't care about really ranking them. The point is, look at the list of players. Look at the 71 players we've bought post Sir Alex Ferguson, and look at how the majority of them are shit. Okay? This is the point that I've been trying to say forever. The recruitment at this football club has absolutely destroyed us. Destroyed us. These players, look at the players. All right? Bruno, I think 100% should be number one in every single list if you're going to make this, because for the money, for the impact, it's the best one. It's the best one. And we signed it in January as well. The best one. Then you got Zlatan, Juan Mata. Like, listen, Zlatan was good with the goals, but he was old and he was not always a fit. So, not great. And it didn't last very long. It was very temporary. Juan Mata, I liked Juan Mata. I didn't like how we played him out of position. I think that hurt him. I don't consider Juan Mata a bad one. Lukaku was a disaster. Eriksen was free and it was okay. But, there's Mbeumo, who's new. I think it's too early to judge. Herrera, I liked Herrera. I don't think we should have let him go when we did. Maguire, it's come good now, but for the money we paid and how it went in the first couple of years, not a good signing. Diallo is turning into a good signing. Dan James, failure of a signing. Johnny Evans, old, but he was good for what he gave us. At times, he was one of our best players for Ten Hag defensively. Fellaini, I didn't like him, but listen, he scored some important goals and he did have some sort of an impact, but to me, wasn't a United player, wasn't the player that we should have had. I think we had to play very weird because of him and the price that we paid for him. Luke Shaw, another one sort of just like, with the injuries, I think talent-wise, when he's able to consistently stay, but this hasn't gone well either because of the injuries. Lemons is new and he's been good so far. Matic was all right. Like he had a couple of seasons where he was good, but again, was on the older side and it didn't last too long. Cunha's new, so there's still time. We got to see how that goes. Delo, I think, has been one that has been average good as well. Like, the price we bought him for, the age we bought him for, it took him a while to get into the team. He's part of our team now, and he's an important part of the team. But in that beginning, it was a struggle. He almost didn't make it. We almost sold him. So I think it was decently. Varane, good player, but we spent a lot of money on him, and he was also a bit injury prone to a certain degree. And, it was a temporary sort of thing as well. Like, he's not here. It didn't last very long. Tom Heaton, not even going to discuss it. I mean, I could care less, but whatever. Lenny, I think so far, young guy, good signing. But there's a lot left to see how that turns out. So you can't really say. Daley Blind, didn't think was good. Mason Mount is turning into a better one, but it started off bad. And it seemed like the others. Edison Cavani is another one. Like, yeah, he could shoot the ball and he was talented, but another one, not reliable, constantly injured at the end of his career, you know, didn't last very long. Where's the longevity in these things? Didn't go well. It didn't. Delit, he's sort of falling into that category a little bit. Like, Delit is a very good player. I think the money we spent on him is fair money, but the guy needs to stay fit. He needs to stay fit. You know, if you can't stay fit, you're not any good. You're not useful. So he needs to stay fit, and he keeps having these little things like how he's having right now. You know, this has happened since he's come here, where he does get injured, and then he goes missing for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we need him. Like, you know, he was important to our defense. We were relying heavily on him. And again, you know, if you can't stay fit, you're not useful. You know, that talent doesn't mean much if you're not available. We need you, you know, at least 85% of the time. Maz for the price, good signing. Cass, good player, but I think the money was shit signing. In terms of the money, you know, wage ridiculous. Even the you know, what did we pay, like 65 million or something like that for a player of his age at that time? Like, you know, too much. Bad signing in that aspect. Fred, no, I mean, disaster. Lisandro, again, he's another one that I think good player, but you know, I think the price is a bit justified for what he could give us, but you know, with these injuries, it's been a problem. And he's another one that needs to stay fit because we need him. So, Wan-Bissaka didn't work out well. Ronaldo, scored his goals, but didn't end well. And I also think it fucked up Ali's team because wasn't really part of the plan. Sergio Romero, he was decent. I don't have any complaints about that one. Mkhitaryan, failure. You know, didn't work out. Waste of money. Lindelof, average. Martial, disaster with injuries and stuff like that. Aiden Heaven might be, you know what? Aiden Heaven, right now, sitting here at 35, fair. But with the way it's going, considering we signed him for, I'm pretty sure we paid $1 million, okay? At the way he's playing, and, you know, if he continues to grow, this guy, you know, he could easily become number 2. Easy. Easy. Because of the price and, you know, how good he's becoming. So, Saku Kone, too early. Cheeto, too early. Benjamin Sesko, still too early. Dorgu, still too early. But, you know, these guys, you got to watch out. Rasmus, you know, didn't work out. Spent a lot of money. Maybe we should have given him another opportunity. Maybe we shouldn't have. But you know what it is. You know, bad signing. Bad signing. We spent a lot of money. We're recouping. I think we're breaking even on it. So it is what it is. Diego Leon, haven't seen him yet. Too early. Eric Bailly didn't go well either. I mean, had some promise, but went horribly. So Igalo was shit. Lee Grant, nonsense. Sabitzer, decent, but we didn't keep him, and he's not here. Palestri, you know, failure. Dubravka, failure. Memphis Depay, failure. Binder, waste of money, failure. Xerxes looks like, you know, not really the best buy. I don't really think he fits for what we need, and he might be out the door. Darmian, failure. Tellez, failure. Amrabat. Listen, Amrabat was a weird one because he wasn't that great at points, but then sort of, you know, at the end, he really stepped it up and he started playing good. But I mean, temporary, not here, not part of the squad, gone, you know, not stick around. And after he left, I mean, you know, where did he go and what did he do? So it was, you know, he wasn't great. Falcao, another one, like past his prime, injury prone, waste of money, waste of time. You know, nothing to do with sort of a long-term project, a long-term fix. Wout Weghorst, you know, disaster, terrible. Was waste of time, waste of space. Jack Butland, another one. Regulon, another one. Like, you know, this is all bad. Marcus Rojo, bad. Valdez, bad. Meshbury, you know, where is he? You know, Malacia, poor. Pogba, even Pogba's, you know, bad signing. Bad signing. 100 million. Stupid signing. Was good, was bad, was mixed. In my opinion, that's not a good signing. You know, good signing is somebody like that you have that is more good than bad. And, you know, there was some good things with Pogba, bad things with Pogba for the price. And then what came with it and the fallout after that, shit signing. Ugarte doesn't look like a good signing. Schneiderlin, not a good signing. Schweinsteiger, not a good signing. Van de Beek, not a good signing. Di Maria, not a good signing. Onana, not a good signing. Sanchez, not a good signing. Anthony, not a good signing. And Jadon Sancho, not a good signing. I mean, out of a list of 71 players, maybe there's like 5 to 10 decent ones. You know. So that paints you the picture of, I always say, when you do recruitment, you need to get more right than you've gotten wrong. And over the course of since Fergie's been gone and all these managers and all these players we bought, we've gotten so many more wrong than we've gotten right. So, I mean, that's just why it's a major reason as to why we are where we are. You know, it's a major reason as to where we are. So going forward, you know, we need to move away from this. So when Ruben speaks of like mistakes of the past, this is what he's talking about, because these are all just majority garbage. And they've destroyed us massively. So, yeah, I mean, listen. Yeah, listen, I don't care about their wives, okay? I don't care. They could be married to a dog for all I care. All I care about is if they do well for the club, if it makes sense, if the money is there for the signing. So yeah, I mean, they have nice wives, good for them. But that's not has nothing to do with me. But I mean, yeah, this is disaster. Like, I'm glad they made this list because this was too much time that I didn't want to take to go through 71 players. But yeah, I mean, for me, this is like, you know, just a giant fire when I see this list and I think of these players, and I'm just like, you know, it really puts it into perspective of like, Jesus. Like, no wonder we are what we are and we've done what we've done. I mean, look at what we've spent all this money on, and look at what we've gotten back from it. And, you know, gee, like, you know, what have we been doing, and what were we doing? Like, this is atrocious. It's atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. It makes me want to throw up when I look at that. It's such bad transfer recruitment. It's so bad. Neo coupling. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, I know some people like to talk about some other things, but I'm focused on my team. Everything else is noise. It's got to make sense. So, X says, yes, it's horrible. It makes me go Jupiter on the owners. Well, listen, the thing is, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, when I look at this, and it's like, listen, I understand if you don't want to trust Ineos or whatever, I get it. And, you know, they might not be good at their job, but I just feel like, dude, you can't be this bad. Like, the way we were running and the things were happening, because it's just like the Glazers don't know anything, and they don't want to know because they don't care. They just want the money. But like, they hired the CEOs who are bankers who don't know anything except for how to make money commercially. And when you're not watching the people running the football club, and when you're not concerned really about the football, like, this is what you get. So I'm like, listen, are Ineos the best people in the business? Maybe not. I mean, Sajim, I think, you know, he's one of these guys. He doesn't know a lot, but at least he's hired, you know, the fact that we have like a Barada and a Wilcox instead of like a Richard Arnold and an Ed Woodward would make you just think by de facto, like the default de facto, that like we're not going to see this, you know? Because I think this has monumentally destroyed us. it can't be to this level. There's just no way, because I don't think these people are this bad at doing things like this. It's just really about how good is it actually going to be when you stand it up next to, the people at Liverpool that have been doing that job, or the people at City that are doing that job. How high can they measure to that? And I think that's yet to be seen, because obviously they've only been here for 2 years. So, and these other guys, have been here for numerous amounts of years, and they're further ahead in their thing. So, but yeah, I mean, this is what happens. Like, this is why when I look at it, I'm like, well, I mean, you look at how we were running before, and it was like Glazers just picked a guy, and it was like, go be CEO, and they don't know anything, go make us money. At least right now, it's like, well, they handed over the football to Sir Jim, and I might say Sir Jim is more educated in football than the Glazers, but he might not be, that well versed in football in terms of to make all the decisions himself. But certainly somebody like Wilcox definitely knows for sure. Like, he is a football mind, and so is Vivell for sure, and so is Barada to a certain extent. So just by having these guys, it's like there's no way we can make these mistakes, And if we're not making these mistakes, then it's got to be better than this. So, I don't expect it to go the same way that it's gone over the past 12 years. It just depends about how actually good is it going to be? How high is it going to be able to take us? And that's, I think we can't really answer that until we see what actually comes out of it. But yeah, I mean, that list made me want to cry. Victor Lindelof, Paul Pogba, Alexis Sanchez, Sancho, Marcus Rojo, Wow Whitehorse, Tyler Malacio, all out shit. I mean, there's a lot of shit there. A lot of wasted money. I mean, that's you're talking well over $1 billion there. It might be 1.5 billion. Well over 1.5 billion spent. And we pretty much have nothing to show for it. And, a lot of those players accomplished nothing. A lot of those players didn't live up to any of the expectations. And so it's like we pissed away 1.5 billion, and that's what gets me angry. That's why when I look and I'm like, okay, again, with Ineos, it's like when I look at the players we're bringing in, you look at the characteristics they have, like they are doing a better job already in that department, but we have to see, like, they bring in Xerxes. I don't know. It doesn't look like that might have been the best for us, but the difference is they seem to be willing to rectify things, which I can live with. I think some people, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that if you make a mistake, that's it, you're done. Like, you need to be perfect. And I think that's quite nonsense, because I think, how can you expect anybody to be perfect? Everybody makes mistakes. They're going to make mistakes. It's all about a balance. It's all about the scale. If you're making more mistakes than you're getting things right, then, you're not doing your job. If you're getting more things right and you're doing some mistakes along the way, well, okay, big deal. Big deal that's happening. Like, you're going to get things wrong. You have to get things wrong. Everybody gets things wrong. So, listen, like, I think DeLitt, you would say, is a good signing, but if he has this injury problem and it starts getting worse, well, then it's not going to be a very good signing, is it? Unfortunately. And it's not because of the talent. And it's not because of his, sort of mentality or his attitude. It's because he has injury problems, and we missed that. Either we missed that or we mismanaged it while he was here. I don't really know what the story is on that. That's their job. They're the club. They're the ones that get to see the in-depth medical history. They're the ones that we have our own medical department that does their own tests, that gives them the data to show them, there might be a potential problem here in a couple years' time. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This is all the stuff that goes inside the club. Like, this is why they are the professionals. They have access to so many things that we don't have access to as just regular fans. So when they make these decisions, for me personally, I sort of got to trust them, because they have the wider knowledge in terms of they have machines and computers and data analysis. So I just hope that they're doing and they're looking at the right things and they're getting it right. So I don't know what's going on with Mateus DeLate. I don't know if there was when they went to go sign him and they did the tests on him, that there was a potential that this sort of thing can start reoccurring at our football club. If there was, then, I think that that's a big mistake that they made. Because, again, you can't have a player that has talent but isn't always available or is missing a lot is not a useful player. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of money. And it's a waste of time. And it hurts the squad because we can't rely on them, but we need to rely on them. Like it's the same with Luke. Like Luke right now, he's playing and I think he's doing well and he's staying fit. And every time Luke Shaw has been able to stay fit for, the periods of times when he was able to stay fit for 4 months straight and he played, he always plays in good form. He always does well. And his problem always is that like he would pick up some sort of injury and then he's gone for 5 months. And it's like, well, unfortunately, we can't have a fucking left back that we need to rely on because you're good when you play, but you're not here for 5 months. We can't have that. We won nothing under Ineos. Well, we haven't won nothing under Ineos yet. I'm not hyping them up. I wouldn't consider hyping it up. I'm just, I think I'm being fair in that in certain areas, when I see that they're doing better in recruitment, that has nothing to do with sort of winning yet at this moment in time. So I'm not necessarily hyping them up because I'm not saying that they're the best in the world. I'm just looking at what we got now and I'm looking at what we had in the past. And for me, it just calls that it's got to be better than that. The ultimate question is, how good is it going to be? At what level is it going to take us? Is it going to get us to the ultimate success? Is it going to fall a little bit short? Or is it going to completely collapse, sort of like how things in the past have collapsed, where after about, 3, 4, 5 years or so, the whole thing has gone completely out the window. Nobody really knows, but there is some areas and some changes that they have made that have improved this side of the football club, and it needs to continue to improve because we've been lacking behind in those areas, and to catch up, we have a lot more in front of us to go down that road. So, also we'll see how good they are at bringing players. It might get harder to convince players to join if we don't qualify for UCL. Yeah. I think it will. I think it already is. I think it's already hard right now because of sort of what's transpired over, the last, I would say, probably 3 seasons. And, even when you put it all together, 12 years, and you sort of put the whole picture together, I think it's a bit difficult. So I think so far they're doing well. But yeah, I mean, it is going to be, I think it's going to be difficult, but listen, if they're going to be really good at their job and it's going to be, a big difference to what we had before, then I think they'll find some of the answers along the path and, get us back into a position where we can sort of consistently say, at least in the top, because really, what we really need, I mean, you're asking for, we need to win the UCL ASAP. Like what we really need is we need to find a base. We need to find a level where we are consistently staying in the top 4. That is going to massively help us. That's going to massively help us because it will change the outlook of the club. Right now, the club, it has a look where it's very unstable. Like it's very unstable. You don't know what's going to happen. And also, I think one of the things is that, like, if we can do a job where we can actually keep a manager for a while and not keep sacking them, and we can sort of build with one guy going forward, I think that helps our image as well. I think part of the problem is, like, we're constantly changing 3 managers. 3 years. Every 3 years we're changing, and we were resetting, and that's not helping us. That's led to unstableness as well. So we need to get back to a level where, like, let's say we get top 4 this season, right? And we're in UCL, we then need to get it again the next season, and we got to do it again the next season. We just got to keep doing that so that at least the outlook of the club looks better. We can sell some stability. We can sell the project better, and we can get players. That's going to help us immensely going forward, regardless of the guy that's here. If we can consistently go back to getting the top 4, getting Champions League football, and stabilizing ourselves in there, which is what we need to do, because that's not what we are. Which is why when you tell me we need to win the UCL ASAP, I say that that's, sort of a ridiculous claim, because we're nowhere near. If we're not consistently in the competition, how are you going to go and win it? First, you got to get there. First, you need to, like, be in it, consistently first. You're not just going to walk in and win it. We're not at that level. We don't have the team to do it. Even when we go back in, like if we get it this season and we go back in next season, we're probably going to struggle a bit in the UCL. One, we haven't been in it for a couple seasons now. And two, we just don't have that level of the team to ultimately go and win it. So the way you get there is little by little. In terms of, we got to get in there. We got to put in a decently good run. Like, let's get past the first stage. Let's go into the knockout stage. Maybe by some miracle we go really far, but I would say I don't see it. We would probably end up getting knocked out somewhere. And then we got to make sure that for the following season, we're back in it. Now we're in it 2 times in a row. Then we do it again with 3 times in a row, or 4 times in a row, and then it just becomes the norm of United are that team that stays there. We're not going back up and down and changing things all over the place. So, no, I mean, listen, the aim is European football. I don't accept the Conference League. If we got it, if it happens for Europa, then obviously we take that for 1 season and we go for the Champions League next. But we do have a shot to get it right now. As things stand, as where we are, we do have an opportunity. So if we can take it and figure it out, then obviously I would like for them to get the Champions League. I would like for us to finish as high as possible. So I don't think it's, I'm not asking them to win the league. That's never going to happen at this moment in time. It's literally impossible. It's not going to happen. So, but I'm not asking them to win the league. But I think where we stand, how the league's looking, and, the results that are coming in, at this moment in time, I don't think it's a far ask to get the Champions League football for how it's going right now. So, but, where we are and how we're looking, we should definitely be finishing in either a Champions League or Europa League spot for sure. So, for sure. So, yeah. Let me see if there was anything else that we need to update. Yeah. Maz played 64 minutes. Maz is another one, like, listen, for the price and stuff, but what's with his fitness, man? He seems like he can't play full matches. I don't know what's with him. I mean, he just played 64 minutes. He played at left back. Apparently, he put on a clinic, so they're saying, I don't know, I didn't watch the game, but he seems like he can't play 90 minutes, so it's a bit strange that's happening. It's a bit strange that that's happening. What's up with him that he can't play 90 minutes? Because even in our team, he doesn't play necessarily 90 minutes. So, Manchester United are monitoring Manu Kone as a potential summer signing. The AS Roma midfielder isn't expected to be available in January and could cost around 65 million euros at the end of the season. Yeah, a lot of names for the midfield. I mean, I guess we'll find out soon. So, I wish I found that Dorgu quote, man. There was a Dorgu quote that was very, very good. And I saw it and I forgot to save it. I should have saved it. I didn't save it. I messed up. And now I can't find it because I have no clue who, these aggregators. Aiden Heaven spoke on Ruben Amorim, though. And Aiden Heaven said, on Ruben, he said he's a brilliant manager. He's always reassuring me and helping me improve. He's a great guy as well off the pitch, and I'm going to love to continue working with him. It helps a lot to know that the manager cares about what you about you and that he takes his time to come and speak to you. It's good. Yeah, Heaven, don't say those things. You're not allowed to say those things, bro. Don't say those things. Okay? You can't say he's a brilliant manager. You're not allowed to say he's helping you improve. He's a bad, evil guy. He's a bad man. Very, very bad man. He's evil. He destroys all the players. He's stupid. He doesn't understand anything. And, all the players hate him. And, he doesn't know what he's doing. You're not allowed to say that, Heaven. Don't say that. You're going to give half the fan base a heart attack by saying that, okay? You're going to drive them more mentally insane. Because, you're just not allowed to say those things, Heaven. So next time, when they ask you something, don't pick up the manager. Don't give him any respect. Don't say anything positive about him because he's just an evil bad man. He's an evil bad man that does everything wrong and everything is bad. And he's destroying all the players. So yeah, really horrible person. Horrible person. Now there was one thing that like Christian Eriksen has been talking, and what I will say is that like there's a couple things in here that he said. Like he said that Eriksen, he said, when I joined the club, I discovered you're always compared to the legends who played for the clubs. Like saying Casemiro has to match Roy Keane, or what? Or any striker has to do what Van Persie did. He then also said, wearing the United's badge comes with huge history and pressure. After so much past success, meeting expectations is very difficult. Frequent changes in managers and structure make it even harder for players to succeed. He also said something along the lines of like, he was discussing saying that like, when they won the FA Cup, he thought that it was going to be more celebrated, but he's like, it's, these things are a little bit more normal at United, so it's not as big of a deal. And, listen, some of the things he said here, like, there is a bit of truth in them, but I don't know. The way it's coming off that he says it, it seems a bit sort of like he doesn't really get sort of the standards. Like, I do think that, it is a bit of a problem that the players that we have are constantly being compared to our legends. Different times, different manager, and football is different. So I think it's a bit hard, but this is why I talk about you have to have the right attitude, the right mentality. You need to be able to handle this. This is part of the club. Like, and it's not going to just go away. So players that we bring in, like, they need to be able to handle this aspect. They can't let this sort of stuff eat away at them. So we need special types of players. We need players. And, him speaking, it seems like, I don't think it has anything to do with, I'm not knocking his talent or anything like that, but it just seems like to me, like, you seem like you're one of those players that I would say maybe you don't have the certain mentality that it would take for this football club, like I do sort of agree with that. Like, frequent changes in managers and structure makes it harder for players to succeed. I do agree. I think that's something that we don't necessarily needs to be happening, and that we should figure out how to fix. But nah, just he said something like that line about United not really celebrating the FA Cup as big as, like, I'm like, dude, you're speaking like you're a Spurs player. And I was like, but that's where you came from. I'm like, yeah, at Spurs, that might be a big deal because these guys don't win trophies. But, like, yeah, like the FA Cup, like, listen, we're happy when you win it. We're going to celebrate it. But, like, that's not enough for us. The winning the Carabao Cup is not enough for us. We need to be getting back to the Premier League trophies and the Champions League. You need to understand that, like, we celebrated with you when you won it, but that's only going to last for so long. We're not going to parade that around for the next year and have an open bus trophy for those things. We've won a lot of trophies. Our club is bigger than that. He didn't really seem to understand that. And I was like, well, it's pretty much, the thing of not having the correct mentality. Well, I mean, listen, so, there was one other thing here. So, by the way, apparently Barca don't want to pay the 30 million euro buyout clause for Marcus Rashford. Barca sees the fee as too high given their financial constraints, opting instead for cheaper loan targets like Savinho. United fans mocked the news online while calling for Rashford's return. No, thank you, please. And though conflicting rumors suggest Barca might negotiate a lower 10 million deal, and Rashford himself wants to stay long term. What I will say about this is, no. Like, I would so totally put my foot down on this that I wouldn't even give a shit. I mean, listen. You can't... But Barca are full of shit, okay? Barcelona are full of shit. These guys have been bitching and moaning that they don't have money for fucking years now, okay? And I'm tired of their shit. I don't give a fuck what they've done financially. I don't care about their financial situation. You agreed to loan one of our players with an option to buy at 30 million. He's done well for you and you like him. We're not giving him to you for 10 million, okay? And I would run along this line and say, the very least, you either paid the fucking money or you're not getting him. And if Marcus wants to bitch and moan and cry because he only wants to go to Barca, well, then you can figure out a deal with Barca. You can give them half of your wages and they can use that to pay us the 30 million. Because this is bullshit now, okay? This is complete and utter bullshit. All right? Barca are a bunch of scammers. They're fucking scheming. I just read something that Fabrizio put out talking about Lewandowski's talking about that they're telling him not to score goals so that they don't have to pay bonuses to Bayern Munich, because if he scored a certain amount of goals, they would have to pay a bonus to Bayern and they couldn't afford it. I'm sorry, but, like, one, if that's happening, that's a fucking disgrace, okay, from Barcelona themselves. Also, I don't understand how that's legal. You know, that should be on some level of match fixing. You're having a striker purposely not score goals in a game, which will affect outcomes of the matches, because you don't want to pay a bonus that you agreed to when you did the contract. So they're doing contracts and they're doing deals with clubs for players, and they're fucking lying about them in the contracts. Like, they agreed to the 30 million option. They knew that they were never going to exercise that. Even if Marcus Rashford scored 34 goals for them this season, they were never going to exercise the 30 million option. They did it to please United, and now they're going to try and play some bullshit game because they're going to have the player, which is Marcus, be resistant and only want Barcelona and reject everything else, which puts us in a shit position, which puts them in a better position. I'm sorry, but we're not here to, help Barcelona recover from their shitty financial position, because we're in a shitty financial position. So I would go down this route and I'd be like, listen, you pay it or you're not getting him. And Marcus, if you're not open to going somewhere else, well, then you're going to go in the fucking reserves. All right? And have fun. And we'll pay your fucking 300,000 wage. Go in the reserve. I don't give a shit. That's where you're staying. Forget your career, because you want to be difficult, okay? We have maybe other options that we can send you to go play football. If you want to only do a deal with Barca, so we get shafted on this deal, well, we're not getting shafted. You can get shafted. And, yeah, like, no, this is total bullshit. It's total bullshit. It's total 110% bullshit. Like, these guys are full of shit. Like, how can you agree to a loan with a 30 million option to buy clause? He does well for you, and then you lower it to 10 million. I'm sorry, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. In what world does the player do well for you and the fee goes down? So, these guys are a bunch of scammers. They're clearly, what they're doing is they bring him there, they got him there, it's gone well, they like him. Now they're going to use him to try and force us to lose the money, so that they can get a better, cheaper deal, because it benefits them. And they're playing this sort of role where they are like, we're broke. You ever got somebody in your life, one of those guys that is like super cheap, super frugal, and basically acts like, they got like $5 in their account. Meanwhile, they got more money than everybody. It's one of these. That's how they are. Like, they're acting like they're desperately broke. They're not desperately broke. They're just trying to improve their financial situation because they fucked it up a few years ago. But it's not like they got nothing going on, because they sign players every fucking window. They're getting players in every window, so they gotta have some type of money. And what they're doing is they're going around and they're cheating everybody right now, and they're scamming and they're skimming off the top, because they're telling Lewandowski not to score goals, so they're not paying bonuses to Bayern Munich, which they agreed to in the deal, knowing very well that they would go to Lewandowski and ask him to not score goals, or they just won't play Lewandowski so he doesn't score the goals, so they don't pay the bonuses. So they got the guy without having to pay the money. So they're defrauding them there. Now they're doing it to us over here. No, like, we're not playing this game. Like, I would not play this game. I don't give a shit. Like, I want Marcus to go. I want to get money from Marcus. I want to get his wage off. But we're not going from 30 million to 10 million because all of a sudden Barca can't afford it and Marcus only wants Barcelona. At this point, I would say fuck both of them of what they want. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't mean to be so rude to Marcus Rashford, but at some point, you have to kind of stand up for yourself a little bit. And, listen, he's come from the academy, but he's not going to be our player anymore. And I'm looking out for the betterment of this club. And when we need money and we need to move him on, and we have our own financial situation, I could give two fucks about Barcelona. I don't give a fuck about them at all. And if Marcus is unwilling to, have at least some compromise, also, like, listen, I get what he's trying to do the best for himself, but this is quite bullshit as well. Like, there was a deal we made, and the option is 30 million. If you want the option, take it. You agreed on it. That's the point of the deal. Like, you agreed on it. It's an option. You don't have to take it if you don't want to, but then don't come back to us and say, now it's fucking 10 million instead of 30. That's not how that works. We agreed on 30. If you want him, find the 30, give it to us. If you don't want him, fuck off. It's really that simple. But they're going to use Rashford because Rashford obviously wants to be there. And I don't really blame him, but they're going to use him. And they're going to do the same thing. And they've probably already done it. They're going to do the same thing they just did with Lewandowski to Rashford. And they're going to tell Rashford, listen, you want to stay here, make it as difficult as possible for them, reject every other offer, don't like negotiate with them, don't like compromise with them at all. Just be as stubborn and annoying as possible, and then they'll cave and you'll be a Barcelona player. Barca, pay us or my boy gets back. Well, he's not coming back. Like he's not coming back. He's done. But for me personally, that's what I'm telling them. 30 million, you agreed to it. You don't have the money, too fucking bad. And if Marcus has some complaints about it, I'd be like, listen, whatever I can legally do, if you're not gonna play ball, if you're not willing to play ball, then I ain't gonna play ball with you. This is where my stance is coming from. If you're not willing to work with us, so we can find a deal that could be beneficial to everybody, because it's not like we're gonna send you to fucking QPR to play in the championship. There'll be a team there where you can play football, and it'll probably be Champions League, and you could have a good rest of your career. But if you're gonna be, in my opinion, I sort of call it like a baby. If you're gonna say Barcelona or nothing, and you're gonna be a stubborn little annoying asshole, well then I'm gonna match the energy. I'm gonna say, well, you're not getting your way, they're not getting their way, and I'm not getting my way. So nobody wins, everybody loses, and you're getting fucking sent to wherever I gotta send you. And we'll pay the $300,000 a week. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I think you need to hit him with a little bit of a bluff as well. I would bluff it and see how it goes. And I would bluff it, obviously, without telling them, but I would threaten that. I would definitely threaten saying, listen, we don't give a fuck. We need a fair deal. If the fair deal's not coming, then you want to be like this, we have no problem with playing you in the fucking under 21s or something like that. We have no problem putting you in the reserves, paying you your 300,000 or whatever it is. You'll be there for a whole year, a whole season, and then, you're never going back to Barca anyway after that. So, got to play their hand a little bit. But, yeah, listen, that's all for today. Tomorrow we will be live, for the, we'll do a watch along tomorrow for the Wolves match. So, we'll be live at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. UK, an hour before the match starts. We'll be live. We'll be doing, the pregame talk, discussion, lineups, all that good stuff. So, come over there, say hi, say what's up, get involved in the chat, smash a like and stuff like that. I'm going United. Let's say 2-0 United. 2-0, 2-1. Something like that. 2-1, 2-0 United, I think. I don't know if we'll be able to score 3. I feel like Wolves. Listen, I've seen Wolves play away. I know we beat them 4-1, and we played them at Wolves, but when they were home, they were a little bit more inclined to access 4-1. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, listen, it could happen, and I hope it does happen. But what's coming into my head right now is I've seen them play a few matches away, and they play super defensive. And, they're not good at attacking, which is why, they can't win matches. But defensively, they're not going to allow a lot of space. They're going to be very fucking annoying. They're not really probably going to try and go forward. We're going to have a lot of the possession. I seen them do it. They did it against Liverpool. They did it against Arsenal, and it's going to be a different match to when we played them, a couple weeks ago, because they were home. They felt a little bit more inclined to try and attack, and they didn't even attack a lot, but they certainly were a little bit more attack oriented than when I seen them play these other matches against these other teams. So, I mean, I watched the Arsenal Wolves game. These guys, it was literally it was almost like a scrimmage. It was almost like a training exercise. Wolves weren't even trying to play at that point. They were literally just it was all defense. Like they weren't even trying to fucking put a pass forward. So I kind of expect a lot of that, and we still sort of struggle with that in terms of when it's tight, when the other team is playing anti-football and is not even trying to play like any sort of football. We struggle with it. We're missing some of our creators, so I'm a bit worried. I find it a bit hard to see how we would possibly score 3, but maybe somebody steps up. But just in face value, I think it might be one where it's going to be, it might be an annoying game. It might be a bit boring. Because I just expect, I don't expect Wolves to come and play football. I don't expect them to play football at all. I expect them to sit back. I expect them to try and, hold out for as long as possible, not concede first, and then try and score some bullshit, maybe off of a set piece, like a corner kick or something like that, and massively counterattack. Once we're pushed up and we have a lot of possession of the ball, and maybe we make a mistake and they try and hit us on a counter. So I just don't see. I don't really feel like we'll be able to score 3, but I guess it depends how we line up, who we got in the team. If Mount is actually going to be there or not. But yeah, I think we should be able to get 2 for sure. I mean, we're home. Even with the lack of creativity, I think somebody's got to figure it out. Somebody's got to get the goals. Somebody's got to make things happen. I think we could do that much. At the very least, we could do that much. And yeah, so we'll be live an hour before the match. We'll do the watch along, and then obviously after the watch along, we have the Red Devil recap, and we'll recap the match. We'll break it down even further. We'll fully digest it. We'll give some analysis, and we'll talk about those sorts of things. We'll do quotes from the manager after, and then that's it. So and that covers Tuesday, and then what is that? New Year's Eve is Wednesday, yes? So then there's New Year's Eve. So, we probably won't do maybe we do a New Year's Eve one. I don't know how that necessarily goes, but maybe we won't do a New Year's Eve one. Maybe we'll do a New Year's Day one. New Year's Day stream. So, we'll see, but obviously I'll alert everybody as best as I can. Discord people will get alerted in the Discord. I'll put a community tab, but this will come, after Tuesday. So everybody be good. Lucky says 2 Manchester United versus Wolves, nothing. Yeah, something like that. I think we could do that at the very least. Maybe we keep another clean sheet. I hope we do. I think we should be able to, and I have a little bit more confidence. I mean, with the way Heaven is playing back there, now, and Leach is back, in there as well. I think, the way they played against Newcastle, I think we probably have a stronger chance of keeping a clean sheet. So hopefully we could get a little run of the clean sheets. It'll help the goal difference if we could get a couple goals as well. While we're getting the clean sheets, it's like a 2-for-1. So 2 birds, 1 stone. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Let's see what we do. Axe says good night, Glaze is out. Yes, Glaze is out. Good night. We'll see you all tomorrow. Everybody be good. Stay safe. Have a good night. Get some good rest, good sleep. Get ready for match day tomorrow. And we'll see you all then. Other than that, take care. And yep, we'll see you later.